Hello and welcome to a special edition of Positional Play with myself, Dave Davis. I am coming to you from an okay Edinburgh, which is a bit like the game on Sunday, wasn't it? Okay, not bad, some things to like, some things we didn't like. In fact, when I think of this game now, and it was a friendly, it doesn't count. That's why Ryan Gravenberch, suspension didn't carry over for this one. Remember that. It's all a bit meh. Do you know that Gattuso, the one where he says sometimes it's good, sometimes... That probably sums up a little bit of Sunday, doesn't it? But we're here to talk about the positions players took up. Maybe the positions players didn't cover at the same time as well. The system, the tactics, the analysis. We are going to all chat about it. Throw your comments in the chat panel. I'll try and get some on the screen, although I'm going to be quite focused to making sure I try and cover all the bits I wanted to. We can see it differently. But there are some key points I want to call out from this game. And we'll go area by area. I mean, the easiest one to start with is the holy goalie. He was back. Some people thought Mamardashvili might get the nod. He didn't. And Else had a great game, didn't he, to be fair? I thought he was Liverpool's man of the match. Made that save from Mateta early on. Made a couple of saves in the penalty shootout at the same time as well. Yeah, can't really fault Alisson for anything that happened in this one at all. That's not the biggest positive, don't get me wrong, but it was one there. You start moving through the team, don't you, ladies and gents? And I thought he made it. Yeah, I thought Edmund made some decent blocks at times, one of his headers. Never going to be an easy day against Mateta in the way Palace play off that, but from the centre-backs, I don't think you can have a go at Ibu whatsoever. It was just a day to forget for the captain, wasn't it? It really was across the board. Now, this is a one-off. I've seen people even saying today today, going back a few days, I'd say now, Virgil van Dijk, we have to manage him and all this. This was just a terrible day at the office, put it that way, for the skipper. It's a silly challenge, isn't it? That penalty. You can see Sar's going away from goal. It is defending 101 a little bit. Don't dangle your foot in there. You know he wants it. That's what he's waiting for, of course. So there's that. The second one, and it's a glorious ball by Adam Wharton, and I'm not laying all the blame at the feet of the skipper. No way at all. But does seem to just charge out, doesn't he, a little bit? It was not a good day, particularly. It's one he will want to forget. And fronted up afterwards, didn't he, in the mix zone, said, it's not a good record, the last few at Wembley. We want to do better. In Christ, Liverpool just never play well at Wembley, ever, do they? It's just the way it works. But definitely one you chalk off for the skipper. Be keen to make that right against Bournemouth on Friday. Now we're going to start talking about some of the interesting areas from me, and probably one of the first key focus. Milos Kerkez, who seemed to spend the great majority of the day, especially in build-up, quite close to Virgil van Dijk. Now, if you think about Milos Kerkez and Bournemouth last season, what were his strengths? What really shone through? It was that pace, power, never injured, might come into the mix for you, but almost like a road runner for the Hungarian left-back, couldn't he? Would go up and down all day. Strong? Great. Also, probably the biggest strength that I'm sure analysts will quote, the ability to get the ball into the box repeatedly. And we're not just talking getting to the byline and whipping it in all the time, but the ability to pick across, as we saw many times. And to be fair, we saw one example yesterday, didn't we? Do you remember that late run where he actually puts a beautiful cross in and Mo Salah just has to put it either side of Dean Henderson and it's 3-2. But he didn't, so it won't get talked about. But this is the big thing I want to talk about with Kerkez. And this is why the shape is as it is on the screen. Kerkez spent most of his time level there. And in fact, in terms of the passing metric, he was a passing left back for this game. I think literally, if you look at the stats, there's only Virgil and Dominic Szoboszlai actually played more passes in this game than Milos Kerkez. He didn't leave home very often at all. Which it intrigued me, because one of the things I was wondering was, if that's the case, you diluting his almost attributes for me a little bit, was the first thing I was thinking. But the second thing is, again, it's game one. So it's not, it's not a serious game. It's not a competitive game. I know you'll argue different, but why did you buy Milos Kerkez then, if that is the longer term plan? Because there was other left-backs linked, wasn't there? Carreras, remember, who's now at Real Madrid. Aïnouri, who went to City. And part of the favouring, it seemed, for Kerkez above Aïnouri was that ability to bomb on, wasn't it? And also, when you thought about this setup, when I've got it on screen, and it kind of dilates to a bit further forward, Cody Gakpo loves to come inside, didn't you? So who was going to provide that width high and wide? Cody Gakpo loves to drift. We know his signature move, and we'll talk about Cody Gakpo soon. But yeah, not saying he had a bad game and he won challenges. The only thing you do just have a little bit of concerns too strong, but just a wonder over is likes to go to ground, Kerkez. And I always like a defender, so selfishly, who likes a challenge. Of course they do. But is the balance right there? I just wonder. And actually, it kind of got ignored this as well. Everyone talked about the first goal and Wirtz and Ekitike, and of course we will get to them. But what almost got ignored was Kerkez had actually pushed on. If you do get a minute just to watch that back, just look at where he's gone. He actually almost occupied a Palace defender, just creates a teeny bit of space for Florian Wirtz as well to pick that. To be honest, I only really saw this when I watched it back, but yeah, just the threat he can be. I don't know. A withdrawn fullback, a ball-playing defender. I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm more saying, are we getting the best of Milos Kerkez? Maybe this is the plan. Who knows? Maybe it's still being worked out, but that is the question mark there, isn't it, in that area? In the middle, people. I've seen a few saying this as well. I don't want to be too harsh on Dominic Szoboszlai or Curtis Jones, because last season, that double pivot, we all know it was McAllister and Gravenberch. That was the starting double pivot. It was usually Szoboszlai as the 10, wasn't it? That's how it worked. Now, Szoboszlai has been playing as the 8 pre-season. In fact, we actually saw it as the 8 the end of last season, didn't we, at the same time? So that's got to come into the mix. I think you're actually seeing what I expected of Dominic Szoboszlai. Just to be clear, I think he has so many attributes. We know his pace, his running power, the ability to play that switch, which, just to be clear, we saw for the first goal, didn't we? Where he did second goal, where he did the switch to Jeremy Frimpong. The skills are there. The attributes he has are there. That doesn't mean he's perfect. And the one sort of question mark, which may need to be answered about Dominic Szoboszlai as an 8 throughout the season, is, but for all his attributes, which are important, and I want him in the side, bit weak in the duel at times, isn't he? Does he do enough to win the ball? And by the way, before anyone disagrees with that, I'm just working on a statistical basis. I'd used that example before of Sam Maguire had said it in one of his articles on Patron, and I might even just try and dig it up here. It kind of gives you almost a headache or a conundrum a bit for Dominic Szoboszlai. And here it is. This is the one. This is the line, or a bit of a piece, shall we say, from Sam Maguire's Patron on Dominic Szoboszlai against that club Athletic, the Athletic Bilbao. Our possession, he still worries me. Against Athletic Club, he failed to win a single tackle, and he won just 43% of his ground duels. It was the same issue against Brighton last term when he was used in a deeper role. I just thought in this one again, I mean, everyone was guilty of this before, I'm saying it. He got caught on the ball a few times or made a few poor decisions, but everyone who played in the double pivot at some stage did that. But it's just a question mark, isn't it, around Dominic Szoboszlai? And I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's the trade-off you have to accept, because the positives are there. The running ability, the covering runs, the pings across the pitch. No doubts about it at all what the positives are. Maybe it's about who's with him. And maybe it was about who wasn't with him yesterday. And again, the same can be said for Curtis Jones, because as the stat that many people have quoted, ball retention. There was it 57 out of 57 as I'm looking at. Curtis Jones is an elite ball retainer. That's the phrase I'm going to use with. Not an unfortunate phrase, probably no one wants to be labelled with, but it's what I'm going with. Keeps the ball, recycles it so well. I thought he was nice and tidy yesterday as standard without being spectacular. Progressed it okay, got caught a few times, and I think this is important to take. Say, you passed it, 100% pass completion, but you got caught a few times on the ball, which is nothing new for Curtis at all. Again, it doesn't mean he's a bad player by any means, but I wouldn't say either of these shone. And actually, they had a really tough time because they were up against Adam Wharton, who I think is a special talent. I would love at Liverpool, and I thought was brilliant, especially that second ball yesterday, or the assist for Sarr for their second goal. Will Hughes looked like a new lease of life when he came on at the same time as well. So, yeah, they had a tough assignment. I think the big thing you're seeing here, and someone is going to moan that I've got 16 players on the pitch or whatever you're going to say, but I'm just bringing them for a visual, and so we've got something to discuss here. But last season, I'm probably moved Gravenberch to the right side of it and Maka to the left side. That was the double pivot that was successful, wasn't it? Alexis McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch. Now, it's going to be fascinating as to if they're all fit, and touch wood, fingers crossed, you hope they are. Who starts? Who is going to be the regulars there? I think yesterday, in one way, in a weird way, was a great day for Grab. I mean, congratulations to him and his family on the birth of his, the child. More importantly, actually, scratch that. It's terrible to say more importantly. From our point of view as Liverpool fans, it's a case of his case to start was probably helped by what was shown up yesterday, wasn't it? I do think we missed him. The legs, the pace, the power. Drop of the shoulder on occasions just to get out of a bit of trouble. We all know it. There was that. And for Maka, Liverpool's best midfielder. I'm not really interested in what anyone says as an alternative view there. No, he doesn't have the pace of McAllister. No, he doesn't have the recovery legs or the all-round movement, shall we say, of Gravenberch. But all round, easily for me, our best midfielder in terms of the passing, the one who can almost do everything to a high standard. Christ, if he was quick, he'd be worth 200 million, wouldn't he? So he's got to be on the pitch at all times when he's in the big games. Of course, you rotate them, but in the biggest games, Alexis McAllister's got to be there. So that bunches these three into the weirdest looking Venn diagram thing ever. With Maka's got to be one or on the pitch for the big games, and Arne Slot wants to continue this way with Florian Wirtz as the 10. This is the big question, isn't it? What are the combos? How does it work? People will still say McAllister, Szoboszlai. That's still a great combo. Others will say Gravenberch, was yesterday proved, got to be in there. Hopefully anyone's shouting too loudly for Kerkez. I could be wrong on that, but it does feel like, as auditions went, not a great one for Kerkez. And it almost feels like it's set up for him to be the squad player of the season. Whether he's happy with that, and with 2 years left to go on his deal, when Liverpool are trying to talk about renewals, that is a completely different thing. But I'll drag Maka off. I'll drag Ryan Gravenberch off, because at the end of the day, as I said, we're talking about the lineup for yesterday. So that's the midfield. That's the double pivot, the way it was all set up.